Hey y'all, I'm John. Welcome to Claiming a Seat at the Table, a bi-weekly video series where I post interviews that I have with people interested in creating a more inclusive theology. So this is my first video. Let's start by introducing myself. Like I said, I'm John. I'm a seminary student at the Pacific School of Religion in Berkeley, California. I am also an employee of Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida, where I live. You can see the palm trees behind me. I am really excited that you are here watching this. It's also really kind of scary. But I think that this space can do some good. I am really interested in the intersection of Christianity and sexuality. As a gay man, I think that this conversation is really important. I want to begin by telling you a little bit about myself. I grew up in very rural Alabama, was very active within the Southern Baptist community, and I did a lot of work with them. I was president of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes in high school. I was the chaplain of our SGA. I went on several mission trips, but I also always knew that I was gay, which is something that I tried to hide. Once I graduated high school, I went to a Christian university in Montgomery, Alabama. After my first year there, I got a job as a youth minister at a very small church outside of Montgomery, where I eventually got fired. They assumed I was gay without me ever actually having done anything. So I was told that I needed to step down or I would be fired, basically. So I stepped down, and that's when I really began to accept my sexuality. I began to say, if people are going to assume that's who I am, then I might as well just be that, because I know that's who I feel like I am on the inside. I began to date men, and probably 9 months after that, the school that I was a student of found out, and they asked me to pack my bags. I could no longer be a student there, and I needed to be off campus by the end of the day. So that really sucked. It hurt a lot. I went to all of my professors to drop my classes. I had to call my mom and say I'm moving home. I did actually have one professor who told me if I would go into counseling and get better, he might be able to get me back into school the following year, which only perpetuated my understanding that something was wrong with me and that I needed help to get better. All of this made me feel like I was a broken person. Like there was something very wrong with who I am. So I went into a really deep depression for a long time. I still dated men. I was very much separated from the Christian community that I felt was so important for all of my life. So I, over the next few years, began to reach out to congregations and say, this is who I am. I'm a gay man. I have always been very active in church, and I crave that community, and I would love to be a part of your church. And from several of them, I was ignored. From some of them, some of the pastors emailed me back and said, well, that's fine. I think that as a gay person, you should be in church, but I wouldn't tell anyone because I don't know how they would respond. So for the next 5 years, I was very removed from church and Christian community and from any spiritual growth whatsoever. I ended up living in Birmingham and running into a guy that I dated once several years prior. It was a terrible date. But I was back in a city that I wasn't very comfortable with at the time. So I ran into this guy that I knew and latched on, just wanted to talk to somebody. So he obviously was trying to get rid of me. We had a terrible date. Why are you talking to me now? So as he was trying to get away, he was telling me that his boyfriend wasn't far away. And so I said, "Oh, who's your boyfriend? Tell me about him." And it turned out that he was a youth pastor at this small church outside of Birmingham. And so the fact that the youth pastor was gay, a light bulb went off. And I said, that may be a place that I can go and actually be myself. So I visited this church, and it happened to be the first Sunday of a LGBT small group that they were starting. It was such an interesting story. The youth pastor and the violin player started dating and didn't tell anybody. And when everyone found out, there were like 10 gay people who had just showed up to this small church and become part of the community. So they were having this conversation. Is this okay? How do we handle this? Do we give them a space? Do we tell them they aren't welcome? Do we fire people who are in ministry? So that Sunday was the Sunday that I came back to the church and began to feel like I had a place. Even if they weren't sure where that place was, they welcomed me and my friends, and we felt like we had family. So I ended up being at that church for several years. That guy that I went on a date with and then tried to blow me off is now one of my best friends. We've been friends ever since. And that also began this passion that I have for these conversations about sexuality as it relates to Christianity. And I know that several people have a story similar to mine where you were told that you're not welcome, where you were told that you didn't belong and that you're not worthy. And so this space is for you. I want you to know that Genesis tells us that God breathed life into Adam, and with that breath came the image of God. And so all humanity shares the divine image. I believe that wholeheartedly. And so if you're a human, then God is present in your life and is working within you. And just because you're gay doesn't mean that you're not worthy. Just because you're bisexual or transgender or different in any way doesn't mean that God is not working in you and can't work through you. And so as we spend the next several weeks talking to a variety of people, I think you'll be really excited about the ways that they have created a theology that includes rather than excludes people. I want you to tune in and let me know what you think. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching. I am really excited for what we're going to be able to accomplish, and I will see you all soon. You don't have to